right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are back again, walking up to Outlaws. Haven't played cash in well over a month, probably been 6 or 7 weeks to be honest, so I'm feeling a little bit nervous, but also excited, but mostly nervous. It's the first day that we are starting our normal weekly Thursday schedule here, and then I'll probably try to fit in one more day randomly throughout the week. We'll see if we can or not. Definitely minimum one. Don't really have much of an update for you guys, just been grinding out the videos, trying to produce as much content as possible to get up to date. I think what I'll do starting next week is post probably one up-to-date session and one old session until we can get current. That way people that, you know, come hang out or playing can see the hands that, you know, happen a week later as opposed to having to wait 2 freaking months. Anyhow, about to walk in. I'll check in with you guys in a little bit. Wish me luck. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are starting off the vlog with a little bit of PLO action. For those of you that don't know, here at Outlaws, on every dealer change, we play a $100 capped PLO Bomb Pot. $10 of that goes in before the cards are dealt. The rest is limited to post flop. We're only 6-handed, so there's $60 in the middle. We go to this board run out with 8, 6, 7, and 2 diamonds on the board. We look down at our hand and we have Jack 7, 7, 4 with 2 clubs. So we do have a set here, but there is a straight possibility already. The action checks over to us. I decide to bet $20 here. There's a very good chance that somebody already has the straight, but since we're 6-handed, I'm okay with betting here to find out if anybody has some sort of draw. 2 callers, and we go to the turn, which comes a 4 of clubs. Action checks over to us. Our hand didn't really improve here, so I just checked the action back. 9 of clubs on the river. Doesn't change anything for us, unfortunately. Action checks over to me, and I check it one more time. Unfortunately, the board did not pair, so I don't think our hand is good, and we do get shown a straight with 9, 5 of diamonds here. Our opponent flopped it, so he did not need that 9 on the river. Luckily for us, we didn't keep betting at this pot here because we had a feeling we were behind, and we ended up losing the minimum. Doesn't feel great losing the first one, but there's plenty of poker to be played. We don't have to wait too long before looking down at an awesome starting hand, the pocket jiggities. We're in middle position, but the table is 6-handed. There was an under the gun raise to 15. I just smooth called the 15, and then there was a re-raise by the player to my left to $50. The action gets back over to the original bettor. He flat calls the 50. At this point, I think the player to my left might be pretty strong with a bigger pair than we do, but he could also be doing this with ace king. So I debate whether or not I just want to flat here with pocket jacks and set mine, or if we just want to get it all in now. If he put in 50, he's probably willing to play for all of it, even with ace king. So we go all in, and he doesn't snap call, which is good news in my head. He does eventually put in the call. Out of the gun player tanks for a few minutes, but does end up folding. I ask our opponent if he wants to go once or twice, and he says once is fine. 594 in the middle, and the board runs out for deuce 9 with the 7 of hearts on the turn and a 10 of hearts on the river. And the villain shows us pocket kings. Wow, not expecting that. I thought he might have had an overpair given he raised to $50 and we're all only playing 300 effective. But after he took his time making the call, I figured that our pocket jacks were good, but clearly I was wrong. Nice hand, my friend. Following that hand, we obviously have to reload if we wanted to keep playing, so I bought in for another 300. I also wanted to take a quick second to let you guys know, if you weren't here last week, we'll be at Outlaws every single week, and I wanted to take a quick second to let everybody that's local to the area know we're going to be playing at Outlaws every single Thursday. Then I'm going to try to get in there at least one other time a week, either on a Friday or Saturday, depending on what I have going on outside of poker. If you guys are trying to make the vlog and want to play some 1-3, feel free to come join me. And I know I have some friends and coworkers that have been wanting to come out to Outlaws and play as well. There's also a 1-2 game that starts at 2 p.m. on Thursdays if you're not quite ready to jump into the 1-3 game just yet. They have progressive bomb pots going on Mondays and Thursdays for the 1-2 game, so that's a good incentive to come in as well. Anyhow, getting back into the poker. For this next hand, the $7 straddle is in fact on. 2 players limp in, and when the action gets back to me, I look down at ace jack suited, and we're definitely going to put in a raise here, so I decide to add another $20 to it, making it a total of 27. Both players do put in the call, so we're going to go 3 ways to this flop here.
$82 in the middle, and the board runs out king 4-9 with 2 diamonds. Not the best flop for us, but a king is often going to favor our pre-flop raising range compared to our opponents. I decided to continue here for $45. The first villain decides to put in the call, but the second villain gets out of the way. 172 in the middle, and we go to the turn, which comes a 6 of hearts. Our opponent pretty quickly checks it over to us. This card doesn't really change anything on the board for the villain here, so I'm going to continue here and I'm going to size up a little bit, but I don't want to pot commit ourselves in case the villain shoves. So I decided to bet $70 into 172. This should put enough pressure on a small pair like a 4 or a 9 to not want to stick around, or even a hand like pocket 7s, pocket 8s. I don't expect him to fold on the river. River comes a 3 of hearts, 312 in the middle. Our opponent quickly checks over to me. I look at his remaining stack. Villain has somewhere around $140 left. So as I suspected, there's no way he's going to fold if we jam here with just ace high. So for those reasons, I do wave the white flag. I announce that I check. Our opponent flips over 5-4 offsuit for just a pair of 4s, and we get totally owned in this hand. This next one is another PLO Bomb Pot, but this time we have 7 people, so there's $70 in the middle. The board runs out 9 of hearts, ace of clubs, 7 of diamonds. The action checks all the way around to us, and I look at my hand for the first time. We don't really have much going for us besides a pair of 7s and a gut shot. I decide to check this back, and the 4 of diamonds peels off on the turn. Now we have an open-ended straight flush draw, so we definitely want to put some money in the middle here. I have a ton of outs and I want to build up this pot. The player behind us bets $65. I decide to cap it at 90. We don't have a made hand yet, but we have a pretty good draw. We do end up getting one caller from our neighbor who just stacked us with the kings. The original raiser said she was just bluffing at it and decided to fold her hand even though it was only 25 more. We bink the 3 of clubs on the river. This $315 pot, make our straight, and it is in fact good versus our opponent's flush draw with an open ender as well. Nice to get some chips moving in the right direction. We finally have a full ring going when we look down at king jack offsuit from middle position. There was an $8 straddle, so we went ahead and put in the call. 5 of us going to this flop with 41 in the middle, and the board runs out deuce, queen, jack, rainbow. We have middle pair here, but I'm going to go ahead and put in the check to try and figure out where we're at in the hand. The last player to act decides to bet $15 here. I don't necessarily think this is that strong. It could just be a position bet since the action checked over to her. One player calls in between, but when the action gets back to me, I'm definitely going to put in the call here for $15. 86 in the middle now, and we go to the turn, which comes a 9 of hearts. Action checks over to us. I think about betting here, but this board just got a lot more connected, so I check it back. The last player to act checks it back as well, and now the 7 of spades peels off on the river. After she checks back the turn, I don't ever expect her to have a straight or any 2 pairs here, considering how connected the board was. And much to my surprise, the early position player, our buddy Mike, decides to lead out here for $30. I know he's a very capable player who can sniff weakness, and after the 2 players after him both check down 2 streets, I think he knows that neither of us really like this board run out. One of us likely missed our draws, or the other one just has a weak hand. So knowing this, I do decide to call with my second pair here, and Mike shows us jack 10 of clubs, so our king jack is good. Bit of a scary board, not really that big of a pot, but it was the last hand that we played with the full ring, and we sniffed out a bluff, so we threw it in the mix. Moving on to the next one. For this hand, we looked down. At this point, we are only 4-handed. 2 players decided to get up table, and then 2 followed immediately afterwards. We looked down at 10-7 suited and decided this is a good enough hand to see a flop for $7. 22 in the middle, and the board runs out 7-6-10 with 2 diamonds. Since we're out of position, I start with a check here. The villain to our left bets $10. Player on the button decides to raise to 25. And at this point, it seems like he has a pretty good hand here, so I'm going to go ahead and just put in a smooth call for $25. There is a straight possibility out there, but there's also a flush draw, so he could just be doing this with the diamond draw. 112 in the middle, and the king of spades hits the turn. Once again, I do decide to check here. The button really seemed to like his hand, so I'm assuming he's going to bet again, and unfortunately, he just checks it back. The river brings a 5 of spades. I don't really think this changes anything on this board. If they had this straight, they would have flopped it already, so I do decide to go for some value here. I decide to bet $50. Then we instantly see a raise come in to 130. So I'll let you guys guys listen in on the real-time commentary here.
130.
5, 6. You flop the straight or backdoor or flush? Backdoor the flush. Nice hand.
Cool.
Probably could have laid that one down, to be honest, on that river, but I really didn't think as played that our opponent flopped the straight, and it seemed very unlikely to me that she went runner for the flush. I think I would have been okay with a call had we checked, she bet, and then I called, because she could have easily been doing it with some sort of misdraw or a worse hand. But since we let out on the river and then she raised us, I think that spot is just very underbluffed and we really should have let it go. But that's okay, because we learned from it and we're going to improve. The only unfortunate part now is that the fourth person at the table got up and it looks like the table is breaking. Not much of a comeback vlog. The game ends at 8, but luckily we hung out after this hand and people slowly started to funnel back in. At this point in the night, because we're short-handed, we all agreed to do a $6 mandatory straddle, so we're playing 1-3-6. It was an open to 15 bucks and I put in the call with 10 deuce offsuit, 48 in the middle on this 9 queen 8 board, so we flop an open under. There's a $20 bet, and then our Huckleberry Kevin gets out of the hand. How rude. We're trying to help Kevin make the vlog and he just raises then folds on this flop. Come on, Kev dog. The 9 of hearts comes on the turn. Our opponent continues here for $40. The board is paired, but I didn't put him on a set of queens, set of 8s, or a set of 9s on this flop, so I think our open-ended straight draw is still good. So I do think about it for a couple seconds, but eventually put in the call. 160 in the middle, and we go to this river, which comes the 5 of hearts. Our opponent checks it over to us, and I don't think this is a check because he's scared of the backdoor flush. I think he's going to have a queen or 9 here a lot of the time. I don't think a bluff is going to get through, so I go ahead and check it back. Our opponent announces that he has a 9. It is obviously good. I show that we missed our open ender and slide our cards back towards the dealer. This hand is super unfortunate just due to the potential that we had here. There's a $15 open and we look down at 7-4 suited. A bit too far gapped than I like, but since we're playing 5-handed, I feel like this is good enough to see a flop. Board comes out 8-6-8. I don't really have anything going on here, so I just check this back with our gut shot to the straight. But then the turn brings us the 8 of hearts, giving us a lot better of a draw. We have a flush draw, a straight draw, and a straight flush draw. But what I failed to realize is that now there's 3 8s on the board, so our flush and straight draws are no good. We literally can only hit the straight flush. So when I get called after making this $20 bet, I get really concerned that our opponent has an 8 or a 6, but then we binked the 5 of hearts on the river for the straight flush. So now I am praying that our opponent has an 8, not just to get stacks in, but because if our opponent has quads with a 7 kicker, this is going to be a bad beat jackpot worth 11k. Make a pot size bet here on this river for 75, and to our misfortune, our opponent does not have an 8, so there will not be any bad beat jackpots, and we're just gonna scoop this massive pot of $85 with the Giga Nuts. For this next hand, we look down at King Jack suited and we are in the big blind. There's an open to $20, and since we are 5-handed, actually currently 4-handed because we're missing a player, this hand is super strong, so I decide to raise it to $60. And then when our friend Lou comes over and sits down at the table, I apparently knock over her chips for absolutely no reason, pick the stack up, straighten them out, and then I end up knocking over the second one. But we got 2 callers, so we obviously have to pay attention to the hand, so I just leave my mess on her side of the table. Board comes out 6-9-7 rainbow. I go ahead and check here because we have nothing except king high and a backdoor flush draw. Player on the cutoff decides to bet $95. The button now jams for about 230 something. We have absolutely nothing here, so there's no way we're going to continue, so I just throw my hand in the muck. Player after me also folds pretty quickly. The cutoff snap calls. She shows that she flopped the nuts. The button says he has a pair plus a straight draw, ends up turning a flush draw, and then our boy rivers the flush, goes running hearts versus the flop straight for the absolute suck out of the century. But you know what? We ain't mad about it, because look at this handsome boy. How can you be mad at this face? For this next hand, we look down at Jack 10 offsuit. We are on the big blind. There was a raise to $25. And like I mentioned earlier, we're so short that we're just playing any two cards at this point. So I do go ahead and put in the call. Three of us going to this flop, $81 in the middle. The board runs out 5, 10, queen with 2 hearts. I check my middle pair here. Player to my left decides to bet 32. The button folds and we very quickly put in the call. 145 in the middle and the 9 of clubs peels off on the turn. I think this is a much better card for us than our opponent. I think he's just going to have a queen a lot of the time in this spot. So I decide to donk bet into him. So I decide to donk bet into the villain for $75. It's a half pot size bet, which I'm hoping makes it look like I'm going for value. Our opponent thinks it over for quite a bit of time. He does not look pleased with the current situation. And as he looks at the bet size and his remaining chip stack, he's basically going to have to pot commit himself at this point. And so he's either going to play for all of it or none of it. And if he does shove, we are open-ended so we can improve, and we're definitely going to put in the call here. But I would not mind just winning this with second pair. But I wouldn't mind taking this down with second pair either. Eventually, our opponent does make the fold here, and we end up scooping yet another small pot in the right direction. For this next hand, we're back to our regularly scheduled short-handed shenanigans. Kevin puts in a raise for $33 here. And like I mentioned earlier today, being such nice guys, trying to help KevDog make the vlog, so we obviously gotta give our boy some action. Fortunately, nobody else wants a piece of Kevin, so we're just going heads up to this run out. $72 in the middle, and the board comes out 9 queen king with 2 diamonds. He decides to continue for about a half pot size bet. The action gets back over to me. Kevin says let him take the small one. I show him that we're not gonna float him with a gut shot because that would just be entirely uncalled for, but I knew the jack was coming, so you know, he really should be thanking me for laying this down. All right, ladies and gentlemen, for this next hand, we look down at king queen offsuit, still 6-handed, and we are in the cutoff. There's a $6 button straddle and a raise to $26, so we very quickly put in the call. Our girl Lou on the button puts in the call. The small blind puts in the call. The big blind puts in the call, and we go 5 ways to this flop with 130 in the middle. The board comes out jack 9-4 rainbow. We have a gut shot into overs here. I don't think this is quite good enough to bet. I was thinking about betting, but I did see Lou out of the corner of my eye grabbing some chips getting ready to bet, so I'll let her do the work for us. She bets 40 into 130. The small blind very quickly puts in the call, and since we have a straight draw and 2 overs, I also put in the call here. 250 in the middle, going 3 ways to this turn, which comes a queen of clubs. We just got upgraded to top pair, and we still have a gut shot here. Small blind checks over to us, and I decide to bet 125, which is exactly half pot. I use this bet sizing to protect our hand because top pair is very vulnerable on this board, but also if anybody has a straight with this bet sizing, they're going to be very enticed to re-raise us. But I think a lot of the smaller pairs on this board, like just the jack, let their hand go. Eventually Lou does put in the fold, and the small blind follows suit, so we take down this $250 pot. For this next hand, we are on the small blind, and apparently we are raising to $20 with a mystery hand here, and that mystery hand happens to be king queen offsuit, similar to our last one. We end up getting 2 callers, so we're going to go 3 ways to this board here. Kevin made sure to announce for the vlog before he threw the money in so he could have any 2 cards right now. This board runs out 9-10 jack with 3 clubs. We flop the nuts straight, and we have a king high flush draw. I decide to check this over since we are first to act. We get 1 fish on the line who decides to bet 15 bucks here. With the hand as strong as ours, we're definitely going to put in a raise. Our opponent could have just a naked flush draw here, or potentially a smaller flush than ours. Her bet sizing on the flop was pretty small. I don't think any single pairs would fire out here for $15 considering the board is so wet. There's 3 to a straight and 3 to a flush already out there. Our opponent thinks it over for quite some time, then ends up raising us to a little under 200. At this point, I'm convinced she either has a baby flush or just has the naked ace of clubs. I don't think I can fold my hand here in this spot. If she just has the naked ace, we're going to charge her the maximum. And if she does have a smaller flush, we still have 2 streets to potentially hit our club. So for those reasons, I do decide to go all in here. Our opponent snaps us off, which was to be expected. I ask her if she wants to go once or twice. She says once, and then shows us that she flopped the nuts with ace deuce of clubs, but then we banked the queen of clubs on the river for the straight flush. We hit a 1 outer in a $1,500 pot. Absolutely disgusting. I have no words. Our opponent totally trapped us. We got it in real bad. and then we just hit that miraculous queen of clubs to get our double up on the river. Honestly, I did not expect our opponent to have the flop nut flush with the way it was played. She played it phenomenally, and I just got lucky as heck. The $6 straddle is still on, and when the action gets over to me with ace 10 offsuit, I decide to raise it up to $50. We get one caller, so we're going heads up to this flop that comes out deuce 3-3 rainbow. Action checks over to me, and I'm going to make a standard continuation bet here. I decide to downsize to 45. Our opponent very quickly puts in the call. 174 in the middle, and the turn comes a deuce of diamonds. Our opponent now decides to fire for 100. If I had a hand like aces, kings, queens, or jacks on this board texture, I would have played it exactly the same and then sized up on the turn. So even though our opponent bet, I'm definitely going to put in a raise. I decide to raise to 220, making it a little bit more than a min click. I want our opponent to think that with this bet sizing, we're just begging for a call. He thinks it over for quite a bit and eventually ends up mucking his hand. So we were able to get this bluff through with ace high, but ace high may have been good. Who knows? All right, ladies and gentlemen, time for the session recap. We played this session exactly a week ago Thursday. We were in for 1100, cashed out 1330 for a profit of $230, averaged out to about 8 big blinds an hour or $40 an hour for our 5.5 hour long session. Not a bad run considering that we were just kind of donking off chips for half of the session. Playing short-handed kind of sucks, so we were just trying to have fun while we were here because it was our first night back. So I'm happy I left with any profit at all. And that's all we have to say on that matter. All right, guys, signing off with this last hand where I totally punted. Thank you guys for stopping by and checking out the video. If you made it this far, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. So for this hand, we looked down at Jack 7 offsuit on the button. There was a straddle and a bunch of limpers, so I decided to squeeze real light here to $50. Board comes out deuce 9 queen rainbow. The action checks over to us, so I make a pretty standard continuation bet here of $65. Blue tanks for a while but ends up folding. The big blind puts in the call, so at this point I'm very concerned. 256 in the middle, and the turn comes a 6 of diamonds. Our opponent checks it over to us, and I feel like this is a trap, so I'm just gonna go ahead and put in the check back because I don't want to F around and find out. Going to this river, 256 still in the middle, and it comes the queen of diamonds. There were some cards that may have come out that I was going to use as a bluff card. Top pair now turning into trips was definitely not one of the cards I wanted to bluff on, so unfortunately we have to just let our hand go in this spot here, and this was the last hand for us for the night. See you all next time. Good luck on the felt. I will catch you guys next time, and good luck on the felt.
All right, everybody, we are back home. Sorry we didn't give you a mid-vlog update while we were at Outlaws, so we're doing it now. Session went pretty well by the end of it. We were playing like an absolute animal. Table was short for a majority of the night, so we were kind of playing any two cards for a while, just trying to give action, keep the game alive while we were playing short-handed. We took a big dip in the bad direction at the start of the session. Were the hands avoidable? Kinda. Sure, I provided you with my reasons for playing them the way that I did. The pocket jacks I think was very avoidable. I knew where I was at there. I could have just laid that down or tried to set mine and then fold, but I don't know. I haven't been playing forever. We're like, why not? Let's gamble. It was a stupid gamble. I would have felt more comfortable flipping with ace king there, knowing our opponent had a big pair, but I honestly wouldn't have been surprised if he showed me aces. So either way, we're back home now. Feeling good about the session. It was fun. We left up with some money. Tonight was our first night back, and I was more focused on catching some good hands for you guys and for the vlog. Obviously trying to be profitable in the same process, but there are some nights where I come and I, stuck and we're down a lot bankroll wise, or we've had 2 or 3 losing sessions and we really knit up and grind it out. Tonight was not one of those nights. Tonight was a fun night. Either way, I'm rambling at this point.
overall, more of the story is thank you guys for watching and being here and supporting the channel. That's the only thing that matters. You made it this far in the video. I appreciate it. Love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Keep being awesome. I'm really tired of not making any sense, but that's fine. I'll see you guys next week.